aging is a process we are all experiencing right now. However, men and women go through different phases, and these will affect us as athletes. Therefore, understanding the process enables us to be able to adapt our training accordingly. Now, in specifics today, we are focusing on the menopause, which obviously directly affects 50% of the population and indirectly affects the other 50%. Therefore, I feel it deserves some attention. And we're actually going to be speaking to a GP and an athlete who is currently going through this stage of life to get a real insight into the topic. I feel it's time to unwrap the taboo and open up the conversation between sport and the menopause. I guess we should start with a clear understanding of what we mean when we talk about the menopause and what exactly is happening.
Physiologically, your ovaries are slowly shutting down. They're slowly stopping ovulating, which means that your periods will slowly come to an end and stop. Your fertile years are over, and your hormones go through this kind of roller coaster, which is the perimenopausal years, and then finally flatline. So you become postmenopausal, which is physiologically, when we define it, we say when you haven't had a period over the year, age of 50 for 1 year, or if you haven't had a period for 2 years between 45 and 50, then you are postmenopausal.
That was Dr. Bella Smith, founder of the Well HQ. She's a GP who specialises in women's health, but has also completed her first triathlon last year. So I'm delighted to say we'll be hearing more from her. But first, quick reminder, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do that by subscribing. Back to the subject at hand. The menopause is sadly still quite a taboo word, and as a result it has various different terms. In fact, the next voice we're about to hear from calls it the
change of life.
I guess it's something that we don't want to talk about that much, as the symptoms can be undesirable, to say the least. But we're not going to shy away from those today. However, we are going to be looking at how you can manage this period of life, and the bit I'm most excited about is how sport can really help. We now know what it is, but how does it actually affect women? Michelle Dillon, who represented Team GB in triathlon at the Sydney Olympics, is approaching her 50th birthday, and she has spoken really openly to me on how she's actually experiencing the menopause herself.
So it all started around about a year ago. And to be honest, I mean, I would just go my normal day to day. I would be training like normally in the morning, and then perhaps maybe in the afternoon as well, or lunchtime in between work and stuff. And my morning session, I would come off on a pretty much on a high. But I started to feel quite depleted, not in the depleted way of, oh, this has really taken a lot out of me. It was more like I felt quite low in my mood, which for me was really unusual because I've never really experienced that. You know, I've always been a sort of like a really, you know, kind of like bouncing off the walls type of person. So this was a bit of a sort of, like I was kind of like trying to sort of tap into like, why am I feeling like this? And then obviously then I started to skip some periods. But it kind of got to a point where the symptoms for me got worse. It was like blotchy skin, like started to have really bad breakouts, really dry skin, you know, irritability, you know, I just felt really different in my mood, like for myself. And you know, I mean, I didn't turn into a monster, but I was definitely probably for Stu was difficult, like, well, different for me to live with. So he was just like, you've changed.
In fact, Michelle had a lot to say on this topic.
And am I doing too much talking, by the way?
Well, Michelle went on to discuss her journey through these changes, including how hormone replacement therapy has actually helped her. But she admitted she's still very much figuring things out. And one thing I am learning is this stage of life affects every woman differently. However, there are a few things in common, and one in particular is the fact that the bone density will decrease, and so much so that 1 in 2 women after menopause actually experience osteoporosis. that is a rather scary statistic, and it's actually made worse by the fact that a lot of women naturally stop doing sport when they reach that stage of life. In fact, some research done by Women in Sport back in 2017 showed that 30% of women stop altogether. And this is where I feel we need to emphasise the importance of sport, and that is something that Bella, with her GP hat on, is very much aware of.
So, but basically we've got to use gravity to put strain through our skeletons, basically. And it doesn't have to be, there's guidance that says you have to do 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week, etc. In terms of bones, it's like you've got to use what's around you. You don't necessarily have to lift a certain amount of weight. You can use body weight, you can do walking, you can do dancing, you can do running. But as long as you are, its impact, where you are feeling the pressure on the earth that regularly, and if you can incorporate that into your lifestyle, that is key. Because obviously you're dealing with athletes. As a GP, I'm dealing with often women of every generation who aren't necessarily that active, but there's a whole sort of generation of women that haven't been lifting weights, who have never lifted weights, and now it's a case of you need to start thinking about it. Even if it's sort of using a personal trainer or someone that's going to help you, but it is trying to just little and often. And as I say, with the injury side of things, it's just trying to just keep on top, because just using your bone density and your muscles regularly is just going to keep and prevent that slow wasting due to lack of estrogen.
We know about the physical benefits, but both Bella and Michelle talked to me about the importance of managing mood, stress, and overall mental well-being. In fact, cortisol, the hormone that's responsible for the stress response, was described to me by Bella as becoming rather chaotic during this period of life. And it's no longer as straightforward as going out for a hard run or a hard workout to clear your head. There are actually a few more factors you need to consider. It's important to try and avoid fasted training, as this is proven to up your cortisol levels. Staying hydrated becomes even more important. There's evidence that changing up your training is useful, so making sure you include strength and mobility as well as your cardio work. There's actually science that shows green exercise, so being outdoors for your exercise can really help. And finally, reframing your why, making sure you've got that motivation, remembering that exercise makes you feel good. Well, all of this is a great advert for doing triathlon, or at least swimming, cycling and running. Yet there is quite a difference in doing these sports for your health and well-being compared to doing them to compete. And this is something that Michelle, as an incredibly successful age group athlete, as well as a coach of menopausal women, knows all too well.
I think I just know that diet's really important. Getting the rest, and I also listen to my body. I've always been one to sort of listen to my body later on in my sporting career, because when I was younger, I really smashed myself to pieces, but there's no harm in having an afternoon off. Like, if you had something, just because it's scheduled in the program, it doesn't mean you have to stick to it if things aren't feeling right. Like a few days ago when I started to have this, I didn't feel right, I had the pains. Like, I was scheduled to go for a swim, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually not going to go for the swim. And it doesn't mean, you have to make that session up somewhere else because you missed it. It just means that you're being sensible, and actually you'll bounce back a lot stronger tomorrow because you actually took the time out for yourself to take that rest and recovery, and not just physically but mentally as well, because mentally there's so much. It's so connected, like you say, with a lot of things with your body. And if you overdo things, like, you can just exhaust yourself to the point of, your coping mechanisms go out the window, and you just don't have the motivation and the drive that you would normally have when you're coming into sessions a lot fresher, for sure. So I am careful with my training, and I'm very careful with also the athletes I coach around my age as well, because not that we're just getting old and we're not able to cope with the load anymore. But I always worry about that red line on injuries as well, not just about bone health, but everything really. Just like, if you know where that red line is, be careful you can get close to it, but just not to go over it when you're training. Yeah. That's really important to me and to the athletes I coach.
Now, as much as I want exercise to be the answer for every problem, it's important to get across that as much as it can help women navigate this stage of life, there is certainly no one prescription fits all. And an area that I've not actually delved that much into, but both Bella and Michelle spoke to me about, was the use of hormone replacement therapy as a way to help manage your symptoms. And I would suggest that if it is something you're interested in or want to look into, that you should go and speak to your GP about. Well, I have certainly learned a huge amount from speaking to both Bella and Michelle, and I've hopefully managed to share enough of that with you. But I would seriously recommend checking out the book, The Female Body Bible, co-written by Dr. Bella, looking at health and fitness for women, if you want to educate yourself further on this topic. And if you just want some inspiration from a woman nailing it in triathlon, as well as coaching people going through this stage of life, why not give Michelle Dillon a follow on social media? And we'll include the link to both of those in the description below. But I just want to finish by saying a massive thank you to Dr. Bella and to Michelle for being so open and helping us break this taboo, and a big thank you to you for watching.